How's it going, everyone? Tableslam here. Today, we're talking about strength versus agility for feral DPS in Phase 1 of Wrath Classic. I was inspired to make this video by a comment I received on my last video about how hard feral DPS really is in Wrath Classic. So shout out to Nick for the comment. He asked me my thoughts on the strength versus agility thing. Decided to just make a video about it and expand my thoughts on the topic further in video format rather than a wall of text. There's a lot of discussion right now about gemming strength versus gemming agility, and also taking the strength passive Darkmoon Card Greatness versus taking the agility passive Darkmoon Card Greatness. It's worth noting that no matter which Darkmoon card you pick, it's always going to be the agility proc. The way the trinket works is it picks your highest stat to boost it for the proc. Our highest stat is always going to be agility. It's mathematically impossible for a feral druid to have higher strength than agility, so it's always going to be the agility proc. So that's, before we even really get started, that's one misconception squashed. The proc from the trinket does not factor into the discussion at all. It's the passive stat on the trinket. That's what we're interested in for this discussion. But anyway, the first thing we have to talk about before we start getting into the math or comparing numbers or anything like that is we have to talk about bearweaving. What bearweaving is, its purpose in our rotation, why you should care, why it matters, and how it affects this conversation and this debate between strength and agility. Now, before we actually get into bearweaving, it's going to be helpful for us to understand the way that energy regen works now, and also how the new version of the Furor talent works and how it affects all of this too. Now, the way that energy regen works now for Druids specifically is that even when we're not in cat form, we are still constantly regenerating energy in the background, and the new reworked version of the Furor talent allows us to keep some of that energy when we enter cat form. The amount of energy we keep depends on how many points we have in the talent. It's a 5-point talent. We'll take a look. Every point you put in the talent lets you keep an extra 20 energy. So with 5 points on the talent, you keep 100. With 1 point, you only keep 20. And, fill in the gaps from there. Easy math. With that out of the way, what is bearweaving? Well, I would call it the spiritual successor to power shifting. Now, the reason I say that is because the point of power shifting in vanilla and TBC was to eliminate dead time and dead GCDs from our rotation to increase our damage, and that's the exact same thing that bearweaving aims to do. Right, so bearweaving 101. When you're low on energy in cat form and you can't do anything about it, meaning Tiger 3 is on cooldown, the only thing you'd be doing at that point is just auto-attacking, waiting for energy to regen, not pressing any buttons. And that, my friends, is called rotational dead time, and we hate that as ferals. That's why power shifting existed. We hate rotational dead time. It's boring, not fun, it sucks. So if we have rotational dead time and we can do something to get rid of it, we're gonna. That's what we've been doing this whole time. That's what people expect us to do at this point. We wore a level 40 helm at level 70 because we hate rotational dead time that much. The way we get rid of this rotational downtime in Wrath is by going to bear form. We spend our rage while we're waiting for energy, and while we're in bear form, our energy will continue to regenerate in the background like we were talking about earlier. So it's a good way to fill our empty GCDs, be a little more engaged with the rotation, and in addition, most of the stuff that we do in bear form does more damage than cat form auto attacks. So if that's the only thing you were going to be doing in cat form anyway, was just auto-attacking while waiting for energy, you'll do a little more damage with your bear form abilities than you would with those auto-attacks. In cat form, we get attack power from strength and agility. In bear form, we only get attack power from strength. This is where the strength versus agility thing really comes into play. If we choose the strength gems and the strength version of Darkmoon Card Greatness, we're benefiting the attack power levels of both cat and bear. Now, all that being said, bearweaving is new. Bearweaving is a recent development in the feral community. The strength versus agility debate has been going on since 2008. Since original Wrath, ferals have been debating about strength versus agility and which one they should go for. So this is nothing new. Welcome to the party. It's been going on for a while. Hey, it's time for some math. I made a spreadsheet. Of course I made a spreadsheet. Why wouldn't I make a spreadsheet about this? This top line here, strength gems, this is literally just the stats from the Phase 1 BIS list on Wowhead, written by Nerdegghead. The bottom section here, I just copied the list and replaced all of the strength gems with agility gems, and I replaced the Darkmoon Card Greatness strength version with the agility version, so we can see the difference between the two. The most obvious ones are the difference in attack power and the difference in crit, obviously. Surprising no one. The attack power jump in the bear attack power section in particular surprised me. I didn't think it was going to be that big. And the cat one too, I knew it was going to be some, but I didn't realize it was going to be that much. And then these values here, the amount of attack power required to get 1 damage, I pulled those from the Wowhead guides as well. Both the feral tank and the feral DPS sections have these lists a little bit further down the page in the attack power section if anybody's interested in looking them up themselves. So all I did at this point was I took the attack power values and I made a calculation with these values here to determine how much damage we were getting from attack power towards these abilities. I did it for strength and I did it for agility. And this column here is the difference between the two. It's always going to be a higher value for the strength gems just because straight up there's more attack power. But this is the differences between the two. 171.4 on your rip, that sure is a big-ish number. It's the biggest one of these for sure. Now the question is, are any of these numbers big enough for us to actually care? That's the big question. Like, yes, it is demonstrably true that you're getting more damage on these abilities from gemming for strength, and it's also demonstrably true that you'll have more crit if you gem for agility. The question is the difference significant enough for us to care? That's the big question, really. Personally, I'm a little more up in the air than I thought it would be. When I first started making this video, I was definitely team agility, and I was planning on going full agility. But now that I've compiled this data and done these comparisons, now I'm not so sure. I might be leaning a little more towards strength, and it's mainly because of this and this. That's more rip damage than I expected it to be, but also, like, overall, it's not really a huge amount. It is definitely an edge for strength, but I don't know if it's enough of an edge for it to be, like, so obvious and clear-cut. You know what I mean? The thing about the crit is that even with that amount of crit in the agility setup and with raid buffs, because these are all unbuffed, even with raid buffs, that's not going to be enough crit to start weaving bites into the rotation. We'll still only be doing Savage Roar and Rip in phase 1. We're not going to have enough crit to be able to do bites. However, in Ulduar, we probably will have enough crit to start weaving bites into the rotation. So because of that, that's my one hang up is Darkmoon Card Greatness. It is technically better in phase 1 to get the strength version, but we're going to be using Darkmoon Card Greatness probably in phase 2 also with Ulduar. So with that being said, I might be leaning towards gemming for strength, but choosing the agility Darkmoon Card Greatness, looking out for the future. Like, yes, in phase 1, Greatness strength is gonna be slightly better. I took a look at the list in the Druid Discord, the trinket list in particular, and the strength version of Darkmoon Card Greatness is only 11 DPS higher than the agility version. It's not a big difference. It's a very, very small difference. We're going to be pulling over 7,000 DPS on single target fights. 11 DPS difference, not that big a deal. So honestly, I'm kind of leaning towards gemming strength and getting the agility Darkmoon Card Greatness because I'm kind of future-proofing myself for Ulduar. Because in Ulduar, I think we will have enough crit to weave bites into the rotation. And when we're doing that, that 90 agility is going to be a big deal. So that's kind of what I'm thinking is kind of a mix between the two almost. Gem strength for the attack power, not just for bear weaving, but also because these cat abilities are also going to get a boost because of that extra attack power. And also just the fact that we're not going to have enough crit even with full agility, so we might as well gem strength, but still Darkmoon Card Greatness agility, I think, because we're going to be using that in Ulduar. So I changed around a couple things on the comparison sheet to be in line with what I said about planning to gem for strength, but still taking the agility version of the trinket, and the numbers are much closer together. This is much more of a middle-of-the-road approach by having strength gems, but the agility version of the trinket. And honestly, I am happy with this. This probably is what I'm going to do. The interesting thing is that a lot of people are going to pick one or the other. A lot of people are going to go either strength or agility. And I don't know, I think this middle of the road approach, like no matter what I pick, I'm going to get flamed either way. So I might as well go this middle of the road approach and test it out and see how it works out. We'll see how it goes. It's phase 1, kind of who cares, basically, is where I'm at with it. Like, it's only phase 1, it's only Nax, it ain't that serious. We'll have a little bit of fun with it. I'll do a little bit of testing, see how it works out with strength gems and the agility trinket. Who knows how many other people are going to do that, but we'll find out at the end of phase 1 how it worked out. Right, so I'm definitely leaning a little more towards strength for phase 1, but it's not because of bear weaving, it's because of the old school argument that they were having 14 years ago about would you rather have more attack power or would you rather have more crit? And I think I'd choose attack power for phase 1, mostly because, like we saw, even if we gem full agility, we're probably not going to have enough crit to add bite into the rotation. So with that considered, I think it makes more sense to go for the attack power option, at least for phase 1. Now, one of the main reasons why I say that it's not because of bear weaving is because I don't think that there are as many fights that will be heavily impacted by bear weaving as people think. Like the sim sheets show for a 3-minute patchwork style fight. So I whipped together a little list of fights that are close enough to those parameters where they would count as bear weavable fights, because the damage increase that you see from bear weaving, according to the sim, is based on a patchwork style 3-minute fight. So obviously patchwork is that. Resuvius is that, because if the MC is doing their job properly, then the boss isn't moving and you could just stand there and smack the boss. And pretty much the same thing with Sartharian. Now, there are some maybes here that are based on RNG. Like Faralina, if you get lucky and there's no rain of fire on the platform or on top of the melee or whatever, and you don't have to move, then it is a static fight. Great. Lotheb, similar with the spores, you're definitely going to lose uptime at some point. You're not going to go without a spore. Grobulus is a maybe because of the kiting. The tank kites the boss, and it is a predictable kite. So you could potentially, keep up with the tank and not lose any uptime, but it's a maybe because that's not a guarantee. Like, if the tank does anything erratic, then you could lose uptime. Thaddeus is a maybe with like a giant asterisk, because the only way that this fight is static is if you and the tank have the opposite charge for the entire fight, and ideally, the perfect best case scenario would be to have opposite charges for the entire fight and also for your charge to not change for the whole fight. So you get to just plant yourself and stay put for the whole fight. That's like the ideal scenario. It's also astronomically unlikely to happen. So as you can see, bearweaving's impact on phase 1 fights might not be as drastic as some people are making it out to be. It will still be a thing. People will still do it, but it's not going to be this like huge deal. It's not going to be the end all be all of feral DPS in phase 1. There's not that many fights where you'll actually be able to do it to its fullest potential. Don't get me wrong, I'm not saying bearweaving is bad or that you shouldn't do it. Like, I'm going to do it. On the fights where it makes sense to do it, absolutely, I'm going to do it. What I am saying is that bearweaving alone should not be the only reason why you're going strength or that you're making these gearing decisions about your character. You should try and understand the greater picture and understand what else is going on, the different stats that are at play, and why strength is a good choice on its own instead of just because of bearweaving. You should also try and understand the merits of agility and why we're looking for a certain amount of crit and how agility can help us get there. Understanding all of these things are what's going to help make you a better player, not just, following a guide or whatever. If you try and understand it for yourself, you have a better chance of being successful at it and of improving over time as well. All right, y'all, you know what time it is. You know what time it is. It's time for the hot take. It's time for the hot take. What do I really think? What do I really think? Strength versus agility. Hot take begin. It doesn't matter. In phase 2, we start getting armor pen gear, and then we start gemming for armor pen. So the only phase in the game where we're not gemming for armor pen is phase 1. And phase 1 doesn't matter. Hot take complete. So in conclusion, if you're planning on doing any bearweaving, you should probably gem for strength. But you should also probably take the agility version of Darkmoon Card Greatness, because that's the version we're going to want in Ulduar, and Ulduar actually matters. Yes, technically the strength version is better in phase 1, but I mean, would you rather have 11 more DPS in phase 1, or would you rather be all set for phase 2 early? It's your money, you can do whatever you want with it, but it seems like a pretty obvious decision to me. Alright, I think I've rambled on about this for long enough, so I'm going to end the video there. But what do you think? Do you like strength better? Do you like agility better? Do you like the middle of the road approach that I'm taking better? Let me know in the comments. We can talk about it there. Thanks to Nick for asking the question in the comments of the previous video, and thanks to you for watching. You can catch me on Twitch at twitch.tv/table_slam, and I'll catch you in the next one.